Hi, welcome to A Sense of Ensemble, Episode 10. My name is Jordan Rosin, and this is A Sense of Ensemble, the video blog dedicated to a new way of making theater. My goal is to give you the tools and strategies that you need to foster a sense of ensemble in your classroom, workplace, or company. Today, I'm very excited to announce that we have a very special guest. His name is Nolan Kennedy. And earlier this week, I was able to sit down and interview him on his thoughts on the subject of ensemble. Nolan is a New York-based actor who's a part of two very prestigious ensemble theater companies. So, without further ado, here is Nolan Kennedy on A Sense of Ensemble.
For the benefit of our viewers, but then also for me as I'm on this journey of trying to understand perhaps like best practices for creating ensemble, and then like the lineage of this idea and where it comes from. Can you rehash for us some of your background, like how you came to be a part of Irondale and Strike Anywhere and this kind of regular ensemble practice?
I think for me, it started when I was taking improv lessons as a kid, and at the same time going through puberty and being one of the lucky ones to have a group of friends to sort of be part of. And we used to have these outings all the time, and it was crazy trying to organize 12 people, 12 teenagers for that matter, to go anywhere, but the group always had to work as a group. There was never any one individual idea. And that, coupled with what I was learning in improv at the time, which was very Skolin-based and very sort of Second City-based, things like that. Eventually those things began to line up in a little bit better way, especially when I got to college and I was doing all these shows that were very anti-ensemble. They were not ensemble. Some of them may have been more like an ensemble, but there was never an intentional move towards that until I was a senior. And this director named Sven Miller came, he was the professor there at the time, and I wrote a show and he directed it, and we co-created this crazy piece called Into an Unlulled Sleep. And that was the first time there was a notion of ensemble. That was like an ensemble, but it sort of broke down because of various reasons, because of the context of the show. It was using the methods of ensemble without really having the time to create one. You know, it's a school show, so it has to move. But it's because of that show that Jim Neeson, who's the artistic director at Irondale here, he is an alumni there and came to see that show, and he hired me. And so I came from college to New York and started working on ensemble theater. But throughout college, I was also, unbeknownst to me, because I wasn't trying to find ensemble in theater, I just sort of happened upon it. I did an internship with the Straw Dog Theater Company in Chicago, and they're an ensemble company. Yeah, I didn't really comprehend that at the time. I was just like, oh great, this theater company's like 3 blocks away from where I'm living. Yeah. And I walked up and I volunteered there, and I was like working with them as an ensemble, even as an intern. And it was such a crazy experience, because at the time there was just some like amazing people there, all functioning what seemed, like I said, like anarchy, like there was nobody in charge. But what happened and where it got to was so brilliant. And I was like, how did that even occur? Like, oh, wow, these people are geniuses. And then I worked with the Neo-Futurists in Chicago another summer in college. And again, ensemble of that company was run by the ensemble. But then coming to New York and working with Irondale for a long time, I really began to understand this notion of how does ensemble occur. And it was working through Irondale, in which, in a very ensemble spirit, not only was I an actor in the company, but we had just opened this space and we didn't have all this nice stuff. And so I had to be tech director as well. And just step into that role. That's what the ensemble needed. Somebody to be able to do that and to do lighting. And we had an open house, and Strike Anywhere came as an invited guest company and performed, and they had no lighting person. And I was on the board, so I just did it. And the director, Lise Walker, was like, who the heck was on that lighting board? That was great. Who was that guy? And then she reached out to me, and I came in as a lighting designer for Strike Anywhere for a little bit. And then eventually they were like, wow, you really should be on stage more often. Took that, put me on stage and said, now you're that. But it was still a lot of things with that company too, because that's a totally interdisciplinary company. You know, that's like Ensemble to a crazy degree of crossing disciplines and stuff like that. Having gone through a lot of the non-ensemble type of theater in college, I never really fit into that. I never really latched onto it. And when I found ensemble theater, and somebody told me, this is ensemble theater. And I was like, what? This is the best kind of theater. This is the best, this is how you do theater. This is how you should be creating stuff with a bunch of other artists who are passionate and professional and trained and brilliant and stubborn as hell. And in a good way.
Yeah. Who first said this is ensemble theater?
To me?
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know, Terry Grease, maybe? He's the executive director at Undertale. Yeah, I don't know, it's probably passing. Probably some joke or something. This? Why isn't it that way? How come you haven't had a break in 2.5 hours? Because this is ensemble. No, that never happens.
Okay. That's interesting though. I wonder if like labeling yourself as ensemble or not is useful then.
I think the label of ensemble comes with, I guess, a set of standards or principles, maybe? I don't even know how to define what those would be, but
If you could identify some of those like principles or things that like make it either ensemble, not ensemble.
I think that something that totally makes it ensemble is that everybody's opinion is equally weighted. I think that's a pretty common ensemble-y notion.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the same, like, different categories. And like if you're talking about, like, maybe somebody's very good at Shakespeare in the company. And, like, really, really good at Shakespeare. And there's somebody in the company who's not great at Shakespeare, but really, really good in, say, music theater or whatever. You know, they're equally weighted opinions coming from different minds. You know, everybody's brain is the valuable part. And, like, the brain, the instrument, and the soul, like, the want and need to work together. That's the second tenet, I'll say that. Is that you have this intrinsic desire to do work with other people. Like, you want to do it in a way that is collaborative, beyond the awful definition and connotation of collaboration.
How would you define true collaboration?
People have this opinion of collaboration being sort of drudgery. When people say, we're going to collaborate, people go, awesome, great, that sounds like a fantastic idea. But it's because they're being forced to work together. But that's sort of antithetical to the word collaboration, to collaborate, I think. Because the pure, true collaboration that you asked me about is people who want to work together. Who say, you know, that sandcastle is pretty cool, and mine sandcastle is pretty cool, but I think that if we both work together to build a really bigger sandcastle, it would be like double cool. And that other kid goes like, I'm in, let's do it. That's sort of, that's pure collaboration.
It's beautiful. I love how it has that kind of naive and childlike whimsical.
You have to be open in that way. Like, to truly collaborate, you have to be open as a child. Totally, like, able to send and receive all the time.
Yeah.
And to do it intellectually and with intelligence. And also as a human being, with a heart and emotions, opinions, and all that stuff. think it has to have ensembles to do anything have to have a heading. They need to have a direction. Whether that's chosen by the group or designated each season or each show, one person's going to sort of be in charge of this for now. Because you need to have a directing idea, you have to have an agreed upon direction. And that can change, of course. But that's just a hard change. Otherwise, you're just a bunch of really talented people all jumping around in the room.
Great. Awesome. So we've got the agreed upon direction. We've got a desire to collaborate with one another. And the
I'm sure there are many more. I'm no scholar on this. I'm living it, so.
I was intrigued by what you once told me about the way in which you teach improv, relying on ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that to me again and to our audience, such as they are, what and how it is that you teach improvisation through ensemble?
It's a lot of times people approach improv with rules. These are the rules of improv. This is the do's. You know, these are the do's. These are the don'ts. These are the never touches. Don't ever do that. It's the worst. People will. They're not robots. They don't do that. But I teach it from a different perspective in that using ensemble methods, that's how I teach it. Each group learns in the way that they learn. And what that translates to an outsider is that one group might play a very simple game in one way and have one tiny little rule that they add on or don't follow. It's not my job to be there to correct them, it's my job to get them to embrace that. And to use that and incorporate that in what they do. And so as the lessons go on, things get incorporated that they have learned, which allows them to get even tighter as ensembles, because they have their own, they're developing their own language, their own way of creating this thing, whatever they're trying to make. And using ensemble methods, also, and this is maybe one of the tenets, but it's understanding yours and others' weaknesses and strengths, and using them to paint the artistic picture you're trying to create, or any artistic picture, and then just letting meaning being derived from the audience.
So, something that comes to mind that is probably relevant both as like a teacher in a classroom setting, but then also as perhaps the director of an ensemble is, to what extent are you as a teacher in your improv classes aware of and intentional about fostering ensemble, and compare that to the extent to which you're focused on other objectives in the classroom? Like, what are you paying attention to during the course of class? Do you think about ensemble, or is that intuitive?
No, I'm always thinking about ensemble, and I'm always consciously choosing how to say what I'm going to say, or consciously choosing how to structure a lesson that scaffolds it in an ensemble way. So I'm being more of a director in that sense. Whereas a director, with an ensemble might come in with a sort of like a lesson plan for the day, or a rehearsal schedule. Is that we're going to start off by doing Zip Zap Zap. And then after that, we're all going to read at least one article in the New York Times. And then after that, we're going to do some calisthenics. And then after that, we're going to do the storytelling version of our play. And then we're going to get to the textbook, and then we're going to go to lunch. That plan is designed to get somewhere at the end. As the students are going along it, they're absolutely learning improv stuff. But my focus is on, as an ensemble member, as a performer myself, and as a fellow player, of being the driving motion mover, happener thingy. The motor, that's the word that they say, is to just be the constant motor, is that everybody else starts working around it. And then I start a scene with them. I'm not on stage, but I'll just explain the scene and get them to go. And then every single thing that they do, all the successes and all the failures are this really, those details become so important. And I focus a lot on that. Like, okay, for example,
Sure.
I had a student once that was very, very like this, no matter what happened, no matter what the scene. We're at a funeral, lots of big arms and crazy, all the time.
Yeah.
And it was driving some of the other players crazy. Like they were like, oh my God, I can't be in the scene when that's going on. I fear for my life. It's being a little dramatic, but it was true. But instead of like correcting it, I had the students mirror, and that became some sort of weird group psychological gesture that began to be incorporated in all sorts of stuff, where this was the sign for I don't understand, even if it was just like me trying to explain something and doing it terribly and they going like to each other. Or it also became this psychological gesture for so much, like I'm having too much of a feeling that I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
So people would be on stage, and everybody started doing it, like subtly and slowly, and then we just kept noticing it, laughing at it, and enjoying and reveling in that fact that, oh, you did the thing, you did the, and it began happening more and more, and then eventually it became a palette for them of having a scene that was based on the kind of a gibberish exercise, in which this was their gibberish. And they were doing it for their showcase. And I don't know if the audience particularly appreciated it or understood it, but they were riveted by it. And to be able to see a group confident enough, like this is like beginners, like they're not professional improvisers, nor are most of them actors. Like they weren't. I mean, they're still not. But to see them do that as an ensemble, as a group like that, to have that and to agree upon that is really touching on the core of it. Because that sort of storytelling, that commitment to storytelling is what kept that audience so like, you know what I'm seeing, but I have to keep watching it. Like, that was the feeling in the room. It was very focused energy.
And how long did that take, that class, for them to develop that language?
It was an 8-week class or something. 8 or 9.
How often?
I think once a week. I like to have between 2 and 3 hours. Like one good chunk of time.
Yeah.
But it depends on what age group it is, and what kind of classes you're teaching, where.
That's not, in general, ensemble, an overnight process.
No.
It's an important thing.
No, it's ongoing, and that's a lot of that. I don't mean to boast, but based on a recent conversation, I have people make statements like that, like I don't mean to. They actually do mean to, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm boasting. I have so much retention rate from class to class because the groups want to keep working together. Like me, be damned, it doesn't matter, but like they want to keep working together because they've already begun to like feel that connection of ensemble and realize that this is a great way to work.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, I'm going to look awesome, and everyone's going to look awesome, and I can really make this better. And that's when you start really having that investment and commitment to want to collaborate.
Yeah.
Which in people in life doesn't happen that often because we're not really trained to do that. We're very committee society. Like you are specialized people and you go work in that group, and you are the exclusive group that does that. You people do that. You can kind of talk, but we're only going to give you Facebook and that's it. Whatever.
Yeah.
But that notion of isolation is the opposite is ensemble. We're not one brain. We're not a cult or a droid, like one board thing going on. We're not the Borg. Because everybody has every single opinion about everything. An ensemble also incorporates the notion that you need to be able to send and receive very openly, and to, I don't want to say have a thick skin, but realize that when people believe something, they're gonna, if you're truly in a collaborative state, they're gonna fight for it a little bit. And if they get resistance, they're gonna fight for it. They're really gonna try and drive this through because they think it's an important event. Whether they're right or wrong, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that the notion of having those separate opinions is so key.
Yeah.
So key. Because that's how you like figure it out. You know, that's how you have good ideas. Is when everybody's thinking at once, not when one person's thinking up a good idea.
Right.
And the only way that everybody's thinking at once is if that interplay, that normally that happens in people's heads by themselves, is actually out here.
Yeah.
You know, and collectively solving that problem is pretty. That's the magic part. Because the ideas just go like, whoop, they just sort of occur, as opposed to being like wrenched from somebody's brain, or you know, drudged up through hours and hours and hours of research.
Yeah.
It's just.
So, recently I started reading Joe Chapin's book, The Presence of the Actor. I was really struck by something he wrote in a chapter on how he views character. He said that because there's perhaps, in the time he was writing, in his opinion, no codified way of representing character that's kind of consensually agreed upon in America, that it is the responsibility of every theater company or every group of theater makers to kind of come up with a new and unique way of representing the in their work. And that in his view, was integral to the evolution or growth of an ensemble. So I'm curious if you've experienced that, or if you think there are any other questions besides how to represent them that are equally or more important to development of that sense of ensemble.
When it comes to art, people often ask why. Right?
Yeah.
What for? Which is why, in a Midwestern sense. The thing is, the question they should be asking is, what? You know, what is that? Not why is that, what is that? Because that's a totally interpretable thing. And the notion of asking what, of taking things in, what is this? And then being able to define it in sort of a cognitive way, right? That's the first step to experiencing that the collaborative cycle. And just even a moment, like even a second of that with an audience is very fulfilling, because they feel so much part of the story. So for me, it's not about the why. It's always about the what. The why is all inside. It's here. It's collectively known in some other space. But the what is what's present. That's the present part of how ensemble defines its character.
For students or aspiring actors who are interested in this way of working, are there either formal training programs or internships or experiences that you think are particularly beneficial for cultivating collaborative spirit?
I would say, just if you're just starting off and this is something you want to pursue, is that to start out by taking improv classes that are Spolin based. Del Close's work often does a lot of Spolin stuff too, but Spolin based work is really, really nice for creating ensemble. I would also say go to see ensemble shows, and go to see lots of shows, like as many as you can, like ensemble, Broadway, everything, community theater. I think the way to sort of find it is to seek out work that you like. And there's going to be people around that work that, especially if you've been ensemble bent or are exploring this, I mean, there's big ensemble companies all over the place.
Right.
Like Steppenwell's probably one of the larger ones, and Wooster Group and Irondale is a pretty big one too.
Yeah.
But there are just so many. I think ensemble really has to be a group of people that want to do it. That's the
right.
Going out to seek ensemble is a different kind of venture. Like to seek an ensemble, but going out to just find ensemble, that's sort of what every artist in ensemble does all the time. Is always to try and find ensemble.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nolan. Again,
You're
my
welcome.
guest today, Nolan Kennedy, an awesome actor and ensemble theater maker. Once again, I'm Jordan Rosin, and this is my blog, A Sense of Ensemble. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to stick around for more awesome interviews in weeks to come. Thank you very much, and until next time.
Wow, that was something. I am very blessed to have had Nolan on our show. A few things I took away from that, and feel free to leave comments below and let me know what you thought was most interesting about that conversation. A few of the things I got from it were this. Number one, not only is building an ensemble not an overnight process, it's an ongoing process. Nolan talked about his retention rates for his improv classes as a testament to the way in which ensembles have a kind of momentum or inertia, which develops slowly over a long period of time. He mentioned it taking 8 weeks for that seemingly strange gesture to cohere into something that was a recognizable and unique part of that ensemble's language and modus operandi. The second thing I took away from that interview was that good ideas happen when everyone is thinking all at once, not when one person is thinking up good ideas. That seems very important to keep in mind as we go about our creative process. The third thing I took away from that is that every ensemble artist is always seeking a sense of ensemble. Later, after this interview, I was able to chat with Nolan some more, and we went a little deeper into that idea, and he thinks that, indeed, every human being is programmed to operate as part of an ensemble. It's in our very genes, it's in our nature to be part of a community, as he said earlier. And so it makes sense that every artist, as artists are human, are always seeking to be a part of a community, and in this case, a part of an ensemble. If you want more of Nolan Kennedy, and who doesn't, you've got 3 great opportunities to engage with him coming up. On November 28th through December 15th, he'll be appearing in the Irondale Ensemble Project's production of Julius Caesar. That's already in rehearsals and looking really interesting from my perspective. Also, he is supervising and coordinating all of the adult improv classes at the Irondale Center. You can get more information about that by visiting irondale.org/classes.html. Again, that's irondale.org/classes.html. And there you can find out all about their new fall session, which is starting next week. Finally, Nolan will be leading the Strike Anywhere Performance Ensemble's workshop on sound painting on Friday, October 12th. Sound painting is a technique that he and the Strike Anywhere ensemble use as part of their creative process. It's an interesting thing, and I'm sure that will be very informative and enlightening as well. Finally, a few special thanks without whom this vlog would not be possible. The Irondale Center, Grace and St. Paul's Church, and of course my special guest, Nolan Kennedy. Until next time, I'm Jordan Rosin, and this is A Sense of Ensemble.